let's get into it once everyone knows what this movie is about, because maybe you don't. So we went and got, we've been getting Indiana Jones himself to give us the recaps straight from the adventurer who lived it, but even he was reluctant to visit Crystal Skull. But after some persuading, here he is to tell you what it was all about.
Oh, good, because I saw it and I still don't know.
It's 1957. They're re-electing Ike, sending dogs into space, and where am I? In the trunk of a car. Kidnapped by Russians. Put there by a Soviet agent named Irina Spolko, alongside my longtime partner Mac. You know Mac. I love Mac. Well, these Russians were posing as U.S. soldiers to infiltrate Hangar 51. And you know what's in there? Yeah, aliens. That's right, aliens. Brought them up early, so you should see a spaceship at the end of the adventure. Try not to get too pissed, okay? These aliens crash-landed in Roswell, New Mexico 10 years earlier. They picked Roswell because it's famous for, well, alien crash landings there, I guess. It's a vicious circle, people. Anyway, I teach Archaeology 101 at Marshall College, and if there's one thing I tell my students, it's that aliens are magnetized. So I used gunpowder to locate the alien remains deep in the hangar's warehouse. I try to escape, but Mac betrays me. You know, Mac. I hate Mac. So then it's time for a chase scene. What you came for, right? The whip, punching, a vehicle chase, and some bare-knuckle brawling that puts me on a rocket sled into the desert? Well, after many, and I mean many, gopher reaction shots, I find myself in a small town where no one's talking. I mean, no political arguments or anything. So, I'm suspicious that it might not be a real town. Just then, a shark attacks, but I'm able to avoid it by jumping over it on my motorcycle. After being questioned by the feds, I returned to Marshall College, but my ties to Mac give me an indefinite leave of absence. But what's the point of teaching? My students weren't even flirting with me anymore. Then, Mud Williams shows up in my life to give me more bad news. Yippee. He could just kick me in the crotch, but instead, he shares that my old colleague, Harold Oxley, has disappeared after finding a crystal skull. Man, that will never not sound like a vodka. Mutt and I head to a diner to discuss the lost city of Akator, the skulls, and the Uga tribe of Peru. And quietly, I look up Mutt in the dictionary, and it means a stupid or foolish person, a simpleton. I chose not to tell him. Now the Soviets catch us sharing a letter Oxley gave to Mutt. And then they do what the Soviets did in the 50s. Be bad guys. They chase us all around campus, tearing up the midways, knocking over tables in the library, and decapitating a statue of Marcus Brody, thus complicating my chances of being reinstated at the college. Eventually, I decode Oxley's letter, and it says the skulls can be found if you follow a red line on a map and superimposed plane footage to Peru. And it's there we find that Oxley was in a psychiatric hospital until the Soviets captured him. He leaves clues that direct us to the grave of Conquistador Francisco de Orellana, and blah, 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 this movie finally gets to a cave. It's about time. Skeletons, lightning, cobwebs, creepy parkouring cave nymphs. Boxes checked. And more importantly, we find the crystal skull and pour ourselves a glass. Nope, not a vodka. I have the skull for about a minute and a half, and it turns out Mac has let the Soviets write to us. You know Mac. I hate Mac. At the Soviets' camps, we reunite with Oxley, who's gone mad thanks to the skull, and he acts nuts. Thanks, Ox. Worth the flight, pal. Appreciate it. It's right about now this story of a Russian attempt to overthrow the world with a superpower could use some sitcom banter. Enter Marion Ravenwood, who says she's Mutt's mother. Let's see. We need a sitcom situation, too. Quicksand. Although, technically, it's a dry sandpit. Quicksand is a viscous mix of mud, clay, and water, and depending on the fluidity, it's not as dangerous as you might think. Sorry. Back to the story. It turns out, I am the father. Yep, many years ago, when Mary and I did it, Mutt was born. I'm the stupid, foolish simpleton's dad. I could go for a dial of destiny right about now. Anyway, Jar Jar Oxley got us captured, so we had to escape. Again, and this led to a long vehicle chase where Mac tells me he's with the CIA and is a double agent. You know Mac. I love Mac. While fighting with Spalko for the skull, Mutt ends up entangled in some vines, which leads him to a large group of monkeys in the treetops. The monkeys tell Mutt of the totalitarianism, political repression, human rights restrictions, poor economy, and cultural and artistic censorship they've suffered under communism. So, they decide to help Mutt fight the Soviets. That had to be how it went down, because otherwise it makes no sense. But I wasn't there. Anyone the monkeys don't get, the big damn ants take care of, and we arrive at a pyramid in the Amazon rainforest. It's here we learn that Mac is not a double agent and leads the Soviets once again to our location in the temple. You know Mac. I hate Mac. Wait a second. Do you know Mac? Is there anything else he ever does that endears him to you in this story? Does he matter to anything? I don't think there's one thing he does that has an ounce of importance beyond banal superficiality. Anyway, I just realized that he means so much nothing to anything, it's impossible to think of him with any emotion, even hate. The temple holds 13 crystal skeletons, but one was missing a skull. Spalko put the skull we brought with us on the headless skeleton, and it began communicating to us through Oxley using an ancient Mayan dialect, and a portal to another dimension opened above us. This was a huge moment, like opening the Ark of the Covenant. If this was something you really cared would happen for 2 hours. Just then, the portal sucks up Spalko and the soldiers, and while fumfering around in a treasure room with major league inability to read the crumbling room around him, Mac dies. And nobody cares. Literally. No one. But out of the crumbling temple comes a flying saucer. Yes, a flying damn saucer. And the waters of the Amazon cover the space where it was hidden, and I realized that no one's ever going to believe this story. And that ended up being true. People would sit through this story and say things like, I don't believe this story for a second. And no way, this is happening. Anyway, then I married Marion. See you in 12 years.
Well, there you go. That's everything you need to know about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So now you don't have to see it. Our little mini movie was enough.
But
yes,
you should.
You should. And if
you should see it. And I want to say right out of the gate, seeing it again, I liked it.